Hello and welcome to another video from me, Rough Swordsman Wargamer. It's part 4 of my playthrough of Across the Bug River, published by Vuca Simulations and designed by Biernacki. Apologies for the delay in this video. Some of you may know that I've been a little bit poorly, but we're on the mend now. And in the last video, we saw an exciting little battle between the tanks up here near the Bug River, but it doesn't look good for the Soviets. But before we continue, a couple of things. One of them was that the 14th Panzer Division's HQ was mysteriously moved. The only places HQs can be are towns and cities, so we've moved that back there. And something I forgot, and it was pointed out to me, is that leg units can have an increased movement allowance of up to 2 if they don't move adjacent to an enemy unit during their entire movement action, including both the starting hex and the final hex. And I think some of these may have been able to do that, so apologies for that, and thanks for pointing that out. And the other thing is, I think some of these units here, were out of command and should have spent an extra action point to do their movements. So apologies for that, little things I've forgotten. I'm not going to put them back, if that's okay with you. Just bear these things in mind. Right, let's get down to the track sheet. And while we're here, I think the other thing, I actually mentioned it in the last video, I forgot to move down the 87th marker. So we've done that. So here we go. Soviets do not have any positive DRMs, but the Germans get +1 for interdiction and a +2. Germans have it, 13-2. Let's have a look and see what the Germans are going to do. I said in the last video that the Germans may well try and push these back. That is an option, but they only have a couple of activations left. I think what we may do is activate the 44th Infantry and see if we can start pushing forward and clearing some of this away. Let's do that. So the 44th are on 3 activations left. Let's see what they get in the way of action points. 7. Four action points. And let's see what they're going to do with those. Well, we've got this unit already here. I'm not allowed to have a little look. We could bring up another unit. So if you attack the ones in the pillbox, we will get at least some support from the other unit. And that'll be a +2, I think, because it's the same formation. But if we do that, one of these can do a formation activation attempt. But let's do it. Let's use one of the action points to move. What have we got here? Oops. I'll push forward with these. I think we'll move this here. And now we can have a look and see what's going to happen. If they're going to do. I think basically what these units are just speed bumps, slowing down the German advance. We could pull these back. They will then lose their improved defence. See, I don't think it's worth activating those. You've probably got a different idea. But no, I think we're just going to keep those there with their improved defence and try and hold up the Germans a bit. So, no formation activation attempt. So we're going to do an attack. We've got 3 left. We could move some other stuff up and do a regular attack or a hasty attack. But as they've got an improved defense, we'll do a prepared attack and use the last 3 action points up. And we'll get going with the first combat of the video. It'll be this one. And this lot. Whoops. So the Germans have declared a prepared attack. So let's get out the combat chits. So 5. And on the 5 here is the prepared attack. We've got 3, so that's 8. 3s are 24. And for the Soviets, we've got 1 at 2. So they'll be using this because they've got this improved defense. So that's 2 times 1 is 2. And 3 times 4 is 12. That's 24 to 14. And if my maths is right, that'll work down to 3 to 2. Not quite 2 to 1. Hexide terrain effects. They are attacking into a pillbox in the clear. And for defense, the Soviets will get a +1 to their anti-tank. But that's it. Combat support. The Germans have combat support. It projects a Zoc into that pillbox. They are from the same formation. Oh, the other thing I keep forgetting is checking command range. But yes, the 44th HQ has a command range of 10 and yeah, only 7 away. Yeah, don't forget that. I always do. For a prepared attack, for each hex adjacent to that attacked hex, the Germans get a +2 DRM. HQ attack support. Here it is. That's going to be a +5. Armour superiority. So it'll have to be this one. No, what am I talking about? No tanks. It's all infantry, so nothing there. And that +1 anti-tank for the Soviets won't apply either. So it's a 3 to 2 with a +7 for the Germans. So here we are. Hope you can see that okay. 3 to 2, pillbox in clear, +7. Here we go. Oh, grief. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. 10, +7, 17. That's 0 hits for the Germans, but they still have to take an effectiveness check. And 3 combat losses for the Soviets, again with an effectiveness check. Just get rid of these. 3 hits for the Soviets. The first one has to be taken as a step loss, and I think, unfortunately, we'll have this border guard unit take that step loss. Of course, they are eliminated. Now we have to do an effectiveness check on that unit. 4 or less. Yes, they do it. They get a 3. 2 more hits to take. They could retreat. I think they will. And so they'll only take 1 more hit. So we'll pop that on there. And we'll do the retreat when we get back to the map. Germans don't take any step losses, but they have to do an effectiveness check as well, and they need to throw a 5 or less. And they do it. They've got a 2. So that's it. We're back to the map. Here we are. These will have to retreat 1 or 2 hexes. And because of that, they will lose their improved positions. So 1, 2... And because the Germans receive the lower combat hit number, they get their battle victory. So I think we'll just do a movement action and just move them down there. That's it. We're back to the tracks sheet. So the Soviets have a +2 and the Germans +1. The Soviets get it. They're on 8. Germans on 2. So I think the best bet maybe start consolidating the 87th. What have we got under here? We've got, yes. And we can pull these back nearer the HQ and maybe bring these up to some sort of defensive line. Yep, let's do that. Let's activate the 87th Rifle Division. I did remember to move that one down from before. So the 87th are on 3. Let's see what they get for action points. Oh dear, 2. And for 3, look at that, just the 2. 2 action points. As I've said before, as these activation numbers come down, so do the amount of action points you can get. So let's remember to move that down there, and they get 2 action points. Let's see what they're going to do with those. I think what we'd like to do is maybe bring these back here, but let's see if they're in command range. They've got a command range of 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yes, this time they're okay. What I'll think I'll do is bring these back. Now, they're not starting in an enemy zone of control. They're not going to finish in an enemy zone of control, so we can use that extended leg movement. They get an extra 2 movement allowance, so they go up to 5. So let's see what we can do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Costs an extra 1 to get across that river. And the same here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is their lot. Here we are back at the tracks sheet, and I've just reviewed the video so far, and these were in the wrong place. The 41st actually on 0 activations, and I think the 87th was on 4, would have moved down to 3. But that die roll of 2 just now, it would not have made a difference if it was on 4 or 3. It still would have been 2 action points. I must have knocked it, as I said earlier. I've had a bit of a bad cold, so this has been sitting here for a few days and may have got knocked. So apologies. Right, here we go. +3 for the Germans. 4 for the Germans, 1 for the Soviets. I think what the Germans will do once again is to activate this if we can. One thing we've got to be careful of though is the HQ getting out of command to the rest of the units as these move forward. I think that's what we'll do. We'll get a few more across the Bug River if we can. And then we'll see what we can do with the 298. And then push forward a couple of more times with the Panzers. Right, let's activate the 44th. So let's see what the 44th get in the way of action points. 4. This is terrible for the Germans. They're on 2. Just the 1 action point. This is where this game comes back and bites you in the behind when these activations start dropping down. But 1 action point it is. This drops to 1. This turns over. So what to do with the Germans' 1 action point? Well, let's clear this bridge here and we'll use this extended leg movement. So 1, 2, 3. And we'll use another one to go there. And that is it. So Soviets are on +2, Germans +1. It's the Germans again. After that diabolical activation of the 44th, I think we will use their last activation to see if we can get one or two more across the Bug River. So the last activation for the 44th, and they're hoping for a high die roll. And they get it, 9. They get 6. A bit different to last time. They are out and 6. I think the first thing, just to be on the safe side, Germans will move their HQ with a relocation action. It's going to cost 2. And they're going to move it to here. Now, let's just get these across. We'll use another action point for this one. 1, 2, 3, and they can use extended leg movement. 4, 5. Got to be a bit careful. And this one, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2 action points left. Now I know this one has been damaged down to a 3, I remember from last time. So we could move up one of these infantry units and attack it with a hasty attack. We won't get any benefits from the HQ. Yeah, let's do that. So we're going to move up. Yeah, I think we'll move this one up. We'll move it this way. I think 1, 2. This can now do a formation activation attempt. And do you know what? I think they will. If nothing else, they can get a prepared defence going, ready for this imminent attack by the German infantry. So we've got to find the reaction rating of the 2nd Fortified Region unit here. I think that's under here, isn't it? They've got a reaction rating of 4. So this unit here has to throw this unit 4 or less. What they do, they get a 1. That does mean their activation level goes down to 3. I've just moved it on the track sheet. And now we throw and see how many action points they are going to get. They throw a 7. And they were at 4. And 7. And we're using this right hand side now. They get 2 action points. Now they could try and move away, but as they're moving from a zone of control into another zone of control here or here, I think they'll have to try an infiltration attempt, which is an effectiveness check, I believe. No, I think what we'll do, we got what we wanted as the Soviets. We'll pop on our improved defence and await the inevitable attack from the Germans. Now, after that formation reaction attempt is completed, it reverts back to the Germans continuing their activation. They've got 1 action point left. They are going to do a hasty attack. So let's get them down to the combat area. So the Germans have declared a hasty attack. Let's see what fortunes the combat chits bring. So the Germans are on 5. Oops. Ooh. Doesn't look good. Anyway, 5. We're on this one. 5. So that's 1 times 8 is 8. And they're on 4. Even though they're on this column here, it's still only a multiplier of 1. So that's 8 to 4. That's 2 to 1. Hexside terrain effects, they're in the light forest. All that's going to do is give them a +1 on their anti-tank points, but there are no tanks. Combat support, no. HQ, attack support, no. This is a hasty attack. No armour superiority, so it is just a 2-to-1 with no DRM. No, we're wrong. It's actually the Germans that are in the light forest. The Soviets are in the clear. So they're up here. Let's see what the Germans get. 6. Germans lose 1 step and have to do an effectiveness check. Soviets, though, lose 2 steps, but get away with that effectiveness check. So the first one, whoops, for the Soviets has to come off their combat value. The second one can be absorbed by them retreating, and I think they may as well. So they're going to not take any more damage, but they do lose their improved defense, of course. For the Germans, they have to lose 1, which is automatic. And, come here, an effectiveness check, 5 or less. Yeah, they do it though, it's a 2, so they're okay. Back to the map. Now, even though this is a voluntary retreat to negate that second combat hit, it's going to go through, whichever way they go, an enemy zone of control. Now, in the rules, it mentions that if it's a forced retreat, remember, if they're disrupted, they have to retreat during combat. If they enter an enemy ZOC, they will lose another step in addition to the combat result. But it doesn't say it for voluntary, but it makes sense. They are retreating regardless of whether it's forced or voluntary. So I would assume that even if they move here or here, they are going into a ZOC of the enemy. They will lose another step. And they have to stop. Not looking good for that unit. This unit, though, because it had the lower combat hit number, gets a battle victory action point, which I think they'll use to attack this machine gun unit again. It's all go. So the Germans have declared a hasty attack. Let's see what we've got. Oops, slippy. So for the Germans, we are doing a hasty attack. So we're in this first column here. 5. That's just ×1, so that's 7. And for the Soviets, they're on the 4. They're in the middle one though. So that's 2, 7 to 2. So that rounds down to 3-to-1. Hexside terrain effects. The Soviets this time are in the village, but once again, no benefit except a +1 to their anti-tank. But again, no tanks. No combat support for either side, no HQ attack support, no armour superiority, so it's just 3-to-1 as is. Here we are, 3-to-1 in the village. Let's see what they get. Crikey, 9. And a 9 is 1 loss to the Germans with an effectiveness check, but 2 losses to the Soviets and an effectiveness check. I fear that's the end of the machine gun unit. Defenders take their losses first. 2 in total, but the first one has to come off of this, so they are eliminated. 1 for the Germans, which has to come off of here. So they're down to 6 for this unit. And an effectiveness check, 5 or less. Yep, just 5. So we're back to the map. The victorious German unit does get a battle victory action point, but to be fair, I don't think they can do much with it. So we're just going to keep them there. So that's the end for this turn anyway of the 44th Infantry Division. Here we go, +1 for the Germans, +4 for the Soviets. The Germans have it again. 6 for the Germans, 5 for the Soviets. Well, I think we'll do what we said we were going to do. We're going to actually, rather than going back to the map, we're going to actually activate the 298. So let's see what they get. Pop that back there. They're on 3. Oh God, oh law. 10. So they're on 3. They've got a 10. So that's, oh dear, 7 action points. Well, I think the first thing to do is try and get rid of this machine gun unit here by doing a prepared attack. They will have combat support, so that's 3 action points. Let's get that going. So prepared attack. What we got here then? We're on the 4. And 4 here. So 3 times 8, 24 again. They're on the middle one. 24 to 8, which of course whittles down to 3 to 1. Hexside terrain effects. The Soviets are in a pillbox in the clear. So once again, that'll do nothing at all. That'll only give them +1 to their anti-tank. Oh, but got to remember, and I don't know if I did last time, if I forgot, forgive me, they do get a -2 DRM for any effectiveness checks. So, hope I haven't forgotten those. But apart from that, nothing. Combat support, yes, we get it from the adjacent infantry unit next to the pillbox. So that's a +2 as we're doing a prepared attack. HQ support, I'm afraid so. That's another +5 to the DRM. Armour superiority, none. So it's a 3 to 1 with a +7, I'm afraid. There we are, 3 to 1, pillbox in the clear. +7 though. Oh dear. 16. That's 0 hits for the Germans. They have to take an effectiveness check though, but it's 3 plus an effectiveness check for the Soviets. So 3 losses for the Soviets. The first one, of course, off of their combat value. Now they have to do an effectiveness check. They make it with a 3. They've got 2 more to get rid of though. Now if they retreat, they will be moving into enemy zones of control, just like last time. So they will take a step loss and have to stop. But I'm not sure, as they are moving into an enemy zone of control, does that enemy formation get a formation activation attempt? I think what we'll do is we'll keep it there and they'll take their 2 losses, unfortunately. As I say, you'll play this completely different. But I think it's a bit of a lost cause with these units. So that's the Soviets. The Germans don't have any losses, but they'll have to do an effectiveness check. And that, of course, is on 4 or less. And they do it just with a 4. Okay, back to the map. So the Germans will get their battle victory action point. And yes, they will try a hasty attack with that to see if they can finish off that machine gun unit in the pillbox. And I must remember the Soviets get a -2. for their effectiveness checks in the pillbox when these are in the clear. Now the thing is, these units are actually doing their job, I think, because they're holding up the Germans. And remember, in this scenario, there's only 4 turns to get all those victory points. So you may say, well, it's a bit of a one-sided thing, but in my opinion, anyway, this is what the Soviet units at the front are doing, holding up the Germans. So, doesn't look good though for this machine gun unit. Let's put it in the right hex this time. Now we will get, again, combat support from that unit. So, here we go again. Hasty Attack. There we are. What have we got this time? 8 to 1. No hexside terrain effects. Only the -2 DRM if they have to do an effectiveness check. And a +1 for anti-tank for the Soviets, but no tanks. Combat support. We get a +2 as the Germans from that unit I pointed out earlier. HQ, we don't get anything because it's hasty. And no armour superiority, so it's 8 to 1 with a +2. There we are, right over on the right hand side of the combat results table. Not a great throw, we get a 6 with the +2, and the Germans lose a step with an effectiveness check, but the Soviets lose 2 and an effectiveness check. So as you can see, that 1 loss will eliminate this unit, but I feel they've done their job and held up the Germans. 1 loss for the infantry unit here, and an effectiveness check of 4 or less. No, they foul and are disrupted. The Germans get their battle victory action point, and of course I think what they'll do is try and do a refit action so they can become undisrupted, which is done with an effectiveness check. So 4 or less. Yes, look, 4, so they're okay. And we continue with the Germans' activation. 4 action points left. Again, we've got to watch out for this HQ getting out of command of its units. We're okay for the moment. Let's bring this one across to here. So that's an action point. What next? We'll move this one across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Using extended leg. And I think we'll do a relocation here. Nope. Let's just move this one across. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think I used the action points correctly. I shall check, and if not, I'll let you know. Yep, I did it wrong. We've got 1 left. So this one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, let's do that using extended. That's it. We've got to try and move this next time, otherwise everything will be out of command. But that's it. Back to the track sheet. The Soviets must get it this time. They're on a +6. And the Germans +1. Oh dear. What's the chances of that? Soviets get it. 16 to 11. And I think what we'll do without going back to the map is activate the 87th again to consolidate their defensive line and maybe do some improved defences. They're on 3 activations left. 8, good throw. They get 5. As I said, let's bring these back to this line and then see how many improved defences we can do. So back they come. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we've got 3 action points left. We'll keep these where they are in case there's a breakthrough. But we'll pop them on here. 1, 2, 3. That's it. Back to initiative. +3 for the Germans. And they get it. Let's continue with the 298 and see how many activations they get. We can move those up and get that headquarters relocated. So we're on 2 left. Good grief, 10. Seven. Just before we do anything, I mentioned in the video that when I was going to relocate that, I changed my mind and put it back in the wrong hex, but I've put it back in the correct one now. So we're going to move that, relocate that for 2. And we're going to pop it there. Then we're going to move, I think we've got the Stoogs here, haven't we? Yeah, one's damaged. There we are. So let's move those. We'll move it 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's start getting ready to harass that defensive line. I want to move this one up here to get this victory point. That stack can't do a formation activation because they are disrupted. So that's 1, 2, 3. Move this one out the way. 1, 2, nothing else there, is there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And last action point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Let's move that then. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we are, we're moving up ready. We're getting near the end of the turn, so I might as well try and finish the turn with this video. Does mean, of course, it might be a bit longer, but I want to finish this series with a completion of the first turn so you get an idea how the game works. So the Soviets have a +2 and the Germans +1. The Soviets get it, 8-7. And there's not a lot they can do. Maybe just activate the 87th again to try and get the rest of those under some sort of improved defense. So let's do that. Six. Are they on 2? They threw a 6. Where are we? 3 action points. Let's get those improved defences dug. So using our 3 action points, we'll just continue to improve the defences. There we are. +3 for the Germans. Only just. 4 for the Germans, 3 for the Soviets. I think we'll use up the last of the 298. Let's see what they get before I move it down. Dear, oh dear, 2. That's just the 1 action point. Should I move that back and move that there? There we go. As I keep saying, this is the problem. Near the end of a turn, when all the activations are starting to be used up, we can't do much. I think we'll just move up one of these units here. So we'll use extended leg. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There we go. Forgot to move down the 298. There we are. They're on 0 now. Soviets on +2. Germans on +1. Soviets get it. Yep, the Soviets have the initiative. And I think we'll use the last activation of the 87th. Two. I think that's just 1. Yep, that's 1 action point. That comes down. 1 action point. What we got here is 1 unit of the 87th, which is disrupted and damaged. So what I thought we'll do is use that action point to see if we can refit it. We need a 4 or less. They do it. They get a 3. There we are. Germans have their +3. And they get it. 5 to 3 for the Germans. And they're going to activate their panzers. Let's see if they can get a nice high number. They're on 2 activations left. 9. That's 6 action points. Good grief. Right. Let's see if we can push back these Soviet tanks and do a prepared attack. So that's 3 action points. Both sides are damaged. Let's see what the combat chits bring. So a prepared attack. 5 and 6 is on there. And all 3's on this one. So we'll turn that over. Nobody's disrupted. So for these, multiplied by 3, 12, and 9, 21. And for this one, oh, it's only doubled, 16, 37. And for the Soviets. They're all on the 3. They're in the middle. Oh dear. Just as is. 369. 37-9. Which is a 4-1. Hexside terrain effects. Note they're both in the clear, so there is nothing there. Combat support. The Soviets do have an adjacent unit in that pillbox, but it's a different formation. Unless they're doing a regular defense, I don't think anything happens there. HQ support. Panzer HQ has a 4, so we get a +4 to that. So armour superiority. These have only got tank points, so we'll use, doesn't really matter, does it? We'll use this one here. Move that one down. And for this, we'll use this one here. Both got tank points, both in the clear, so nothing is happening. That's a 0. So it's just 4-1 with a +4. Here we are then, 4-1 in the clear with a +4. Oh my good. Oh dear crikey. 10 +4 is 14. 0 hits for the Germans, but 3 and an effectiveness check for the Soviets. So for the Soviets, we'll take their first hit from the one leading tank. Now they do an effectiveness check. Each tank has to throw 3 or less, so this one. No, 5. And we'll have to retreat. The middle one. No, another 5. Oh dear. 10. So they will all retreat. That does mean they can save one of their combat hits. But somebody has to take the third one. We'll have this unit here. Whoop, there we are. Let's get these back on the map. So they will be retreating 2 hexes, I suppose, to here. They get a free action point because of battle victory, and we could attack this for a hasty attack. If we win, we move in, and we would move the rest of the 14th Panzer Division across. But I think this video's gone on long enough. We've come virtually to the end of the turn, and as you can see, we're virtually at the end. These are finished with for the turn. This, I think we only got the 1 unit left up the top of the map on the north side of the Bug River, and these, all these would do, I would think, is just get improved defences. So the turn is effectively over, and I want to finish the series here because, as you can see, it's a long game, even with a short scenario, because of this backwards and forwards with the activations, which I love, by the way. It's a great little mechanic, but takes a lot of time. But I hope I've given you enough of a playthrough for you to decide whether or not this is a game you'd like to get hold of. Before we finish, let's show you what happens at the beginning of the next turn. So at the end of the turn marker, of course, is moved up. And now we have an admin phase, which we didn't have in turn 1. And this is where we reload all the formations with their activation totals. And as you can see here, I've put everything at 0. But as I'll show you in a moment, it doesn't have to be. And this is where one of the subtleties of this game can come in. But for now, everything's at 0. And we need to reset the activation levels of these formations. For the Germans, we look to see what their formation activation recovery rating is. And that's this number here, I believe. And we look on here. We can see for the 7, they're going to get a +5. So they go up to 5. That, by the way, is their total, as you can see. For 6s, they're going up only 4. So would start the next turn here. Next, we'd set the interdiction level for the next turn, and we roll a die and consult this table here. We're on turn 2, so whatever we roll, that would set the interdiction level. And in this case, we rolled a 2, which would give us 0 interdiction. And that makes a difference to the amount of activation levels the Soviets get. So this goes back to 0. And for the Soviet activation levels, we look again at this number on the left-hand side. But as you can see here, we've got a little Soviet Union section. And for 5, we see there are 3 numbers, and it depends on the interdiction level, but it's 0, so they can go up 3. And so on. However, this is where the subtlety comes in. If, for instance, these weren't at 0, because remember, when you get the initiative, you can pass and not do anything, and your activation level will stay as it is. So when we come to the end to renew our activation levels, for instance, if that ended the turn here, we would look and see at interdiction level 0, this will go up 3. So it will go right to the top. And this is handy if you're planning a big push or a big defense and you want to save your activations for the next turn. You've got more of those to play with. So it's a very subtle little thing that this game enables you to do. The other thing is to reset any disrupted units that are within command range of their HQs. They get an auto refit, so you can turn them up the right way again. If by chance there's a disrupted unit that is out of command range and is isolated, you will have to do attrition checks on that unit. In this scenario, we've got a couple of independent units coming in, and this is where they would come in. We would assign them to a formation. And next is a replacement segment where the Germans will receive replacements in certain turns and the Soviets reorganize. In other words, the Soviets cannibalize their units to make others stronger. So looking at the replacement table for the Germans, you can see this doesn't start till turn 3. And for the Soviets, they can reorganize, as I said, by cannibalizing their units. So a non-motorized unit can be cannibalized, in other words, removed from the map, and strengthen up a non-motorized infantry unit. And again, both sides must be in command range to be able to do this. And I think that's it. And we would be off to turn 2. So this has been the final video in a playthrough of the first turn anyway, of Across the Bug River, designed by Biernacki and published by Vuca Simulations. And I hope I've got across the sort of ethos and mechanics of the game to enable you to make a decision as to whether or not this game is for you. So I hope you enjoyed that and it was of interest. If you did and it was, and you haven't done so already, it would be great if you would consider subscribing to the channel. It really does help. Pushing the like button of this video, the thumbs up, helps tremendously as well. And if you want to be informed of other content the channel uploads, then push the bell. leave a comment. I've had some comments on these videos saying they're intrigued by the mechanics. But what do you think? Let me know. If you have the game, how are you getting on with it? If not, do you think it's for you? As I say, let me know. I love to read them. Thanks as always to my subscribers. Thank you very much. Do appreciate it. And one last thing, if you want to support the channel a little bit further, well, now you can buy the channel a coffee. And those coffees all go towards maintaining the channel and enabling it to upload new content. If you wish to check that out, I'll leave a link in the description, and thank you. So, until next time, as always, you take care and goodbye.